Hey, so let's knock out the bass real quick. This shouldn't take too long. So first of all, we have our sub. Let's focus on that. So I want you guys to have a new software track, label it sub, clean sub, whatever you want. If your software track has these buses load into it, you can just get rid of those. So no send, get rid of those. We'll put our own sends on here. So the sub for this, I chose a preset. Normally, I like making my own sub, but really, there's not much of a difference, and it's not doesn't take very long to do. But we have this 808 bass, so you guys can type that in here. You can see my previous search is still on here. Sub 808 bass, super long preset. So all this is giving us is just this. Well, you can actually see it right here. Is this sine wave? So a true subwoofer or just a sub bass sound is really just a sine wave. It's the cleanest of them all. So if we listen back, depending on the headphones you're using, I'm hoping you're wearing headphones so you can hear the bass. If you're not, the way we can get around this is we can look at the EQ. And most of the time, when I'm working with lower frequencies, I'm not relying on really my ears because it's maybe I'm not trained to that level, or maybe I can't really hear it that well. But the best thing I can do is check this EQ because it tells me exactly what's going on. So I don't even really need to hear it. I can just look at it. So right here, see how this is everything is pretty much below 100, but I keep it just above, let's see, 40, hopefully. Yep. So this little range here, our 40 to 80, you can call that kind of the base region. Some would call it the sub region. I would call it a sub. So the way we're going to get our notes for this, again, this is really, really super easy. We already have our piece loaded in here. To write this out, as always, you guys have the MIDI files, so you can drag and drop the sub if you're not interested in this. But we have essentially the just the bass line of the chord. So if we pull up our pad synth, if I didn't mess with this too much, we can usually see the bass line that's going through it. So we have a D sharp. That's going to be our first chord. We got a D sharp. So let's go ahead and put these together so we can look at them together. This must be our sub. Yep. And then remember we drop down. So we have our D. So here's our D. Dropping down to a C. And then we I drop down to the G sharp in the sub. And then we came back up. I think it's, oh, dun, dun. So this is a super special chord here. So A sharp. Got all kinds of fun things going on. So dun, dun, A sharp. So we can go ahead, draw that actually in there because technically you guys, if you're doing this from scratch, you have nothing to copy paste. So let's make a full bar here. We'll go ahead. Well, we won't do that yet, but we have our sub. Let's make sure you guys know this is our gold track we're working on. And so D sharp goes with our whole chord. So we know our chord. If we scroll up, we can see our pad synth. New chord starts here. So D sharp, D. Uh, I think it's B. Again, it's hard to hear all the time. Dun, dun, dun. It's a C. It can be deceiving down here. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. That's our sub pattern right there. Let's double check these, make sure they're the same. All right. So once we have these notes in here, the first thing I do with a sub is I check the frequency space. So oftentimes, if I'm writing it, I want to listen to it, I might take it up an octave so I can hear it a little bit better in my headphones. But other than that, again, I'm checking an EQ. So we're going to pull up an EQ on the subtrack. So you guys can go to EQ, channel EQ, stereo, or you can click on this box. Logic has it set up kind of nice. So we'll go ahead, just click on this box. So we'll turn that on. It's already loaded in. And now we can watch where the sub is. So you guys already know when you're hearing a subwoofer, if you guys can even hear this, we want it in the lower range. This is going to cover the low frequencies of our track, and we want to keep them clean as much as possible. We don't want too much grate going down here, and we also don't want too much going on down here. So our sub is going to handle that. And to double check that we have them in the right range, we'll flip these down. 12 semitones, an octave, and now we'll watch this. So we're at about what, 75, 72, whatever. Look at that, 65, 55, back up to 60. So sometimes, let me throw one of these out of whack. We'll throw this up here. So technically, this is the same note structure, same pattern, but when we get to this note here, again, I'm watching the EQ. So if we skip ahead, skip halfway through. So we got this 65. It's the same thing, but that note was at 100. So sometimes when I'm writing a subline, I'm just keeping everything within that frequency. So 100 is way too high. I want to bring that down, at least for this track. Again, music is all about creativity. You guys can do what you want. Now, we have our sub track in here. This channel EQ, we're just watching it, so it's not really doing anything for us yet. So we're just going to mute that. We'll go ahead, copy and paste our sub. So now we have it through the entirety of the drop. Sound good? Good. So now we have this in line with our other sub track. Then on top of it, sometimes in a lot of my tracks, I'll have 3 sub layers. Or bass layers. So I'll have my subwoofer, which is totally clean, just for the lowest of the low. I'll have a mid section, which kind of rides through like 100 to like 300. And then sometimes I'll have a high end bass, which can go above that. So all of them together, you get this nice fat bass sound that covers the whole frequency spectrum. So you can hear it through different mediums on your headphones, AirPods, through the TV, through the stereo, the car stereo, whatever. So we want to capture all those different mediums in with what we're writing, if that makes sense. So our distorted bass, we're going to capture a different part of the frequency spectrum with the bass. So for this one, you guys can go ahead, get a new track, get your distorted bass, and your distorted bass is going to be the same exact thing as the sub. So we're going to copy that up, and we'll check the octave in a second here. So let's make sure these are labeled correctly. So we have our distorted bass. The track for it, again, if you see these send tracks, just get rid of them. We will worry about that ourselves. Go to Alchemy. For this one, I picked on the Agile synth bass, put it on noisy. Just double checking this. I'm pretty sure I did not touch this stuff, so we can just keep flowing. So if we listen back to this. Pretty nice. So the way we want to, this is almost, I'll call this a pre-mix stage. So get rid of these blinds. They're killing me. There we go. So again, our subwoofer is covering pretty much everything below 100, right? So when we add in this distorted bass, let's do the same thing. Pull up an EQ. I'll pull up another EQ so you guys can see the parameters in place. So we pull this up. Look at all this information that's below 100. So if we drop this down, we have bass, we have sub bass, but we already put that in. So we want to get rid of that. Otherwise, that's going to clash with our sub. So what we're going to do, you guys go ahead, open up an EQ just like we talked about. And the first thing we're going to do is cut. I put it up to 90.5 hertz. So the way you guys can do that, if this red shelf button is on or off, turn it on. I increase the slope to 48, and I brought this up to 90.5. You guys can type it in, or you can click and drag this both ways. So let's undo that. So 95. So what this is doing is cutting frequencies below 100 on our distorted bass, so we don't clash with our sub. So just hearing this back, now we're getting rid of that sub energy, which now you can hopefully hear. So I also put a high shelf on this. So I brought this down, same kind of thing. So we put this pink bar up here, or a high cut, also known as a low pass. I know it's confusing. So we have, I increased the slope to 48 and I brought it down to 3740. Now these parameters are all probably going to be tweaked during mixing. I'm just doing this super fast as we produce. So this actually takes a lot of the high end off. So when we play this back, it might not sound that good. We took away some of that fuzz, but where are we getting that fuzz? We're also getting it from our chords. So we don't want to clash with those guys either. So we're doing just a little bit of mixing just to kind of situate this before we even get to mixing. So I don't want all these things blowing up my master level or my project volume. These are just quick fixes to make sure we can keep going without any kind of problems. So we have our distorted bass with an EQ on it, our subwoofer with no EQ on it. And then together with the chords, oh yeah, it's beautiful. So if we put our drums back, you guys are dying to know what it sounds like. You can turn your thing on. We got our gold. So all together. It's so nice. So nice. All right, so we got our bass. So here comes another easy part with the bass. We have our muted sections, and they're going to be the same as our muted sections in the chords. So we're going to kind of do the same thing. Remember what we did last time? We're going to highlight these, or Command T, is split this, same section, Command T, split this. We're going to mute this stuff. On our bass summing stack, we're going to throw a gain plugin on it. And we're going to do the same exact thing that we had for the chords up here. So here's our gain automation. We're going to do the same thing here. So to do this again with you guys, if we get rid of this, we'll open up our gain plugin. Again, open utility gain stereo. To draw an automation point, you guys should have this set. You just click on it while the automation table is open. It should pop up a line. Not sure what color. It would probably be blue. We'll go to our marquee, and then we can chop this part out. And again, why are we doing this? Just for safe measures. I'm picking presets. I don't always pay attention to exactly what they're doing, so I want more control over the music. Could you bounce this out as audio for some you more technical people? Yes, of course you could do that, but I also don't really like doing that because I go back and change things all the time. Moving on. We have our gain automation in there, and then we have our same compressor that we can throw in from the chord stack here. So the easiest way for me to do this, there's a bunch of ways you can do this, but we're going to press X on the keyboard. Pulls up our mixing table. So from here, you can see everything that's going on in the project, all our tracks, summing stacks, our buses. So if we didn't have our compressor on this, we'll go ahead, we'll copy a new compressor over. So here's our chords. That's the compressor we set up. You can click on it. It's still here. So what we can do is we hold Option. We can click and drag this compressor and put it on our bass channel right here. Here it is. So naturally, this would go above the gain plugin because we want that to hit everything. So now we have our sidechain compressor and our gain automation on our summing stack for our bass channel. So all together, we get the full effect of the drop. Nice. So we got our bass. We'll work on the vocal chops in the next one. Nice short one for you guys.